Hello. How are you doing today? Are you having a fabulous Friday? Or are you feeling maybe like you didn't get enough done this week? And either way, I have some good news for you because we're going to do a training today that's really going to share with you the key to really taking charge of your law practice, taking charge of your weekends so you get to have more fun on the weekends. Maybe you get to do things that don't include thinking about work or bringing work home with you or going into the office. And I'm here to share that with you because so many lawyers I talked to, myself included, had the experience of getting to Friday and feeling like I barely scratched the surface of my work. I don't know many lawyers that were like, yes, I accomplished everything I wanted to this week. So I want to share with you in this training how to really take charge of your practice. And it comes down to really one thing, which is mastering your mind. Before I get into that, if you haven't watched them already, I have done 4 additional trainings all this week, all about leading up to this training. And while you're going to get tons out of this training, I also want to point those trainings out to you. And what we really talked about were things like working more hours doesn't mean that you're going to get more done. And you've probably experienced that if you've been on the perpetual hamster wheel of work. As a criminal prosecutor for over 15 years, I certainly experienced this until I learned how to manage my mind around work. You also know now that your calendar is your best ally when you want to stop the overwhelm, when you want to manage your workload. It's also one of the best tools to help you manage your mind. I'll talk a little bit about that today. And you also learned from these trainings that distraction and procrastination are not character flaws, that they are actually signals that there's something missing, and that thing that's missing is the mind management piece. You also learned yesterday how to set proper boundaries. Lots of lawyers I talk to think that setting boundaries is about simply telling someone what to do, but that's not the case. So if you tune into yesterday's live, you're going to understand how to set a proper boundary and why the boundaries that you have been trying to be set are not sticking. So, let's talk today about mind management. Now, you'll notice that none of these trainings that I've been doing have had anything to do with improving workflow, multitasking, those kinds of things that are typically the go-tos of time management and what we tend to go to. That definitely was something I tended to go to because I thought that was the answer. It was my way of kind of cloning myself and thinking that I could do more by setting one thing in motion and then just like trying to go as fast as I can. And that did not work for me. In fact, it gave me so much anxiety and I felt so much overwhelmed because I was trying to do too much and I was unfocused. And that's something that if you feel disorganized or unfocused, that also comes down to mind management. So, what is mind management? What is it? Mind management is something I had no clue was a thing when I was a lawyer. Zero clue. But when I learned how to manage my mind, it felt like magic. It felt like I had discovered something that like rainbows. Like I discovered how to make rainbows and pots of gold and finding pots of gold at the end of them. It was one of those crazy things. I felt like had I was able to spot a unicorn. And it's not magical. It's actually all brain-based science, but we aren't taught mind management in law school or in law firms, and we're definitely not taught it as young children. At least I wasn't in my generation. So if mind management is a topic that you've heard about, but maybe you're not familiar with exactly what it is, let's break it down a little bit. So mind management is really the ability to slow yourself down internally enough so that you can see individual thoughts and what those thoughts are creating in your life. Amazing, right? So we have about 60,000 thoughts every single day. And How are we supposed to just pluck a thought out of the sky and say, "Oh, that thought's impacting me"? Well, that's something that I talk about with my clients, and we get into that in my programs, but I wanna give you something that will lay the foundation for you, because a lot of times when I say the word "slow down" to an attorney, they freak out because they think, "There's no way I can slow down. I have so much to do. There's absolutely no way I'm gonna fall further behind. I'm gonna drop a ball." That's not what this is about. Mind management isn't about slowing down externally, although that looks you start to gain more focus and you're able to be more effective as an attorney when you manage your mind. What mind management is about is slowing yourself down internally. If you were anything like I was, and honestly, I'm not perfect at this. My brain does this too. Your brain has a gajillion thoughts. You're thinking about what you did yesterday, what you want to do later today, what you're going to have for lunch, what you're going to have for dinner, what you have to do tomorrow. Oh, there's that phone call I forgot I need to make. Oh, I need to make sure I sent that email. And those thoughts are spinning in your head and they feel like they're running like an engine. Right? It's just this zooming in your brain. And when you have this zooming in your brain, it's just about impossible for you to see what's going on in your thoughts. So you've got to be able to slow down internally. Why is it important to see your thoughts? Why is it something that every single one of us should be doing? It's because our thoughts are what impact, what influence, what program our actions. So if you notice yourself procrastinating, if you notice yourself doing lots of busy work and not doing the most important work in your practice, if you notice yourself focused, if you notice yourself able to have really great conversations, if you notice yourself not being able to speak up in a meeting, if you notice yourself speaking up in hearings really easily, but not in meetings, then what you're seeing happening in real time is the effect of a thought that you've had. And those thoughts are going to determine whether you procrastinate, whether you take action, whether you are focused, whether you are distracted, whether you are disorganized, whether you are organized. It all starts with the brain. That is the cause of all of the effects that we see in our lives. So if you're not managing your mind, you're not managing your thoughts, then what you see outside of you will never change. So many of us started out, at least I started out thinking this, if I just get a new calendar, I'll be able to manage my time better. If I just get the right system, then everything's going to be easier. If I just clear my desk, then I'm going to just get so much work done. And I might temporarily, because my mindset has changed temporarily. But what you'll see happen is that you almost immediately revert to your old self, the self that was disorganized, the self that had no plan, the self that felt overwhelmed. Because when we start to reach for things exterior to us, the new calendar, trying to clean the desk, trying to tell people what to do, right? Like in the boundaries training I was talking about yesterday, we aren't addressing the root issue, which is how we are thinking about our problems. And so, what we see externally are all of the things that we don't want to manifest, all of the things we don't want to create, the chaos, the panic, the frustration, the procrastination, the dread, all of those things that we see on the exterior and also we feel in our bodies, those are all caused by how we are thinking about the workload in our practice, the people in our lives, the things that we have told ourselves we need to do, right? These are the things that we need to be aware of. And if you're not aware of it, then you can't do anything about it. Mind management is the ability not only to see the thoughts that you're having that's creating the problem in your life, but then to consciously, intentionally redirect your brain so that you do what you want to be doing. I'll give you the perfect example of this. This happened to me the other day. I talk about it in the episode of Be a Better Lawyer podcast that came out this week called Reclaiming Your Personal Power. I had finished my day and I was about to start recording my podcast because that's what I had on schedule for my calendar was at the end of the day recording my podcast. But immediately after my last client call for the day, my dog's Frankie started seizing. He's okay, don't worry. But he started seizing and his whole body goes into seizures. It's a grand mal seizure when he goes through these. And my first reaction is to go to him, to comfort him, to take care of him. But it's very emotionally draining on me. Obviously, he's feeling the brunt of it, but it's emotionally draining for me because I'm watching him go through this. I need to take care of him while he's kind of walking into walls and all over the place. He loses control of his bladder. I mean, not to give you TMI, but it is a lot of attention and focus I need to be placing on him. And it's towards the end of the day. And what's also going on in the background is I've got a family member who's making dinner, and so they're kind of like moving the dinner train along. And I am thinking to myself as I walk into the kitchen, you know, maybe I won't do my podcast right now. I'll do it later. I'll do it either later tonight or tomorrow morning. And immediately, because I have been practicing mind management for so long, I caught myself. I could see my brain taking me down the route of feeling disappointed that I didn't do the work, feeling upset that I waited when I knew I needed to do it, and then also going down the, okay, I have to push everything on my calendar back because I need to get this podcast done. And in the process, maybe making it harder for my assistant who is processing the podcast. So as soon as I walked into the kitchen and I saw that thought, I could feel like I felt that instant, like that doesn't feel good to me at all. Maybe I'd get a little relief in the moment, but then I could already know that I would feel disappointed. And so in that moment, I had to pause and I needed to redirect my mind. I needed to ask myself, what do I really want? And of course, I really wanted to just get the podcast done. I did not want to have dinner. I did not want to, disappoint myself. So then I had to ask myself, what is it that I want? And then how do I make it happen? Well, I know that I want to create this podcast. So, in order to make that happen, I need to ask my family member for some assistance. I need to just say, hey, I'm not going to have dinner right now. You need to put that on hold. Obviously, you can have yours. But I needed to also say to myself, well, what do you need to be in the best position to do this podcast? Because you're pretty tired right now. And so I said, all right, well, what I need is I need to go outside. I need to be in nature. I need to just have 5 minutes to myself to recompose myself. And then I came back inside. I recorded my podcast and I told that story on my podcast too. But that whole process that I explained to you is how you begin managing your mind. You need to notice what's going on in your mind to begin with, which most of us don't even notice what we're thinking. We're just reacting all day long. We're reacting to the person in front of us, how they're talking to us, how we feel in the moment. And when we do that, we're letting our life drag us around. Because if I had just reacted to that feeling of, oh, kind of blasé, like, "Oh, I'm just exhausted. Like, I just wanna sit on the couch and watch TV and eat some dinner." If I had reacted to that and just let my life drag me around, then I wouldn't have gotten done what I wanted to complete, and I wouldn't have this lovely story to share with you. And I would have felt very disappointed that I had not completed the work. And I would have had to move everything on my calendar to then make it happen, which would have made my life more difficult. And I already knew how this would play out because I'd seen my brain do this before. I'd made those mistakes before in the past. And so it was up to me to manage my mind in that moment to ensure that I did not do what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to not complete the podcast. I wanted to complete the podcast. And then I needed to give myself a plan to make it happen. None of that can occur without mind management. Now, I want to take this out of my realm and I want to bring it into your realm. You've got a file that hits your desk, and it's a file that has been there for a while, right? It's not even one that you just got. It's one that's it's been staring at you for a while now. And you have been deciding over and over again, oh, I'll do that later. I'll do that later. That thought, I'll do that later, is the thought that you're not catching and you're not redirecting. That means you're not managing your mind. And believe me, I know you have a file like that sitting in your office right now that you haven't been touching because your brain's been saying, oh, it's not that big a deal. Like, I'll just do it later. I'll just do it later. But what happens when you keep telling yourself that is you feel a little bit of dread inside, feel a little bit of tension because part of you knows, oh, I'm actually never going to get that done. And oh, I've got a client on the other end of that file who's going to be maybe a little upset with me. But if you're not managing your mind, you're just going to keep putting it off because those same feelings that you have when you think that's thought are the feelings that are preventing you from getting the work done. They're keeping you procrastinating, waiting in a holding pattern. And if you do not manage your mind, you will not get that file done. You know this is true. You know that if you don't tell yourself, you know what, we're just going to take the file out, I'm just going to break it down, we're going to take it step by step. You know that if you don't intentionally manage your mind, you're not going to get that file done. Same thing with a phone call that you've been putting off calling somebody back on, or, something else that you've been putting off. That comes down to mind management. And if you don't manage your mind, you won't get it done. Or on those days where you feel completely overwhelmed because you have 20 files in your inbox, you've got 100 emails, and your brain is just confused, and you're like, what do I do first? Well, if you're giving into that feeling of overwhelm, you're not managing your mind. Because your mind, I'm just going to tell you this right now, little coaching side note here. So, when you have a question in your mind, like, what do I do? Where do I start? And you feel overwhelmed, for example, we want to take that question and we really want to put it into a sentence because that's going to show you exactly what your thought is. So, in this particular example, if you're asking yourself, where do I start? Your brain is actually saying, I have no idea where to start. I do not know where to start. And that I do not know where to start thought that's in your head is what is creating the problem that you have in front of you, which is overwhelm and not getting the work done. That is the issue. When I discovered this for myself, it blew my mind. I had no idea that my brain was basically bringing me down to a level where I wasn't getting my work done, where I felt bad about myself, where I felt like, I kept telling myself I was lazy, that there was something wrong with me, but none of that was true. All that was happening is that I didn't know how to manage my mind. I didn't know how to remember, oh, wait a minute. I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm telling myself I don't know what to do, but really I know exactly what to do. I just need to grab the file and then take one thing at a time and and talk to myself throughout the process and remind myself that this is not hard, it's just a little bit at a time. But to manage your mind, the first thing you have to do is catch the thought and then know how to talk to yourself through the process to get the work done. And if you don't have that tool, you will not be as effective as a lawyer. You'll lose out on bringing more business in because you will not be focused enough to get the work done and then promote your practice. You will lose out on those top-notch assignments because you're not even getting the assignments that you have completed. You're going to lose out on billing because you're not managing your mind around billing the hours that you are working. You're going to, if you own your own practice, undercut your rates if you're not watching your brain and seeing where it's telling you, oh, you know what? I didn't do enough to warrant that bill. But you've got to manage your mind around that. And you are going to learn the skill of mind management in Timepiece for Lawyers. And I've been doing these trainings all week because I wanted you to get a taste for what Timepiece for Lawyers was all about, because it is my signature program, the program that I know has everything you need to take whatever's going on in your practice now, overwhelm, anxiety, pressure, stress, feeling rushed, feeling panicked, taking all of that that's going on and bringing it into a space where you're in charge of your practice, you're creating boundaries, you are managing your time, and you feel peace in your practice. You don't feel like you're running around like a hamster or a chicken with your head cut off. You are in charge. And it takes managing your mind to do this. It takes being able to catch those thoughts and then redirect your mind intentionally. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that inside of Timepiece. Go to dinacataldo.com/timepiece. That's PEACE. I will outline everything there for you that's in this program. Excuse me. And when you begin to see what happens when you join Timepiece, you are going to have your mind blown too. Everything is in there right now for you to get started. We don't start calls until the first week of May. You're going to get everything that you need though, so that you have the Timepiece process inside. You can get started. You've got mind management. You've got trainings on rewiring your brain and understanding how your brain works more in depth so that you can begin applying this work right now. So join me in Timepiece. Go to dinacataldo.com/timepiece and I will see you inside. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment where this video is, and I'll make sure that I reply. Have a fabulous Friday. I'll talk to you soon.